And if you self-reflect long enough, there's definitely 3 ways or more that was true. And I've just been sitting with that more and more. And what it's done is if you can get there through self-reflection, then every piece of feedback you get, no matter how wrong you think it is in the moment,
totally,
it's a gift. It truly is. It took me a while to realize that, but now I truly understand that. And so I'm grateful that lesson you've put out there. And I don't know if you've had some other stories with that.
Yeah, there's a ton. I want to just kind of break it down for the listener because you're pretty fluent in this by now. But one of the things that happens when we get feedback is that's pretty much an immediate toggle down into low self, because we're just so accustomed to, you don't know me and you aren't me and you don't understand and you don't know what I'm living through.
You weren't there.
Yeah, you weren't there. And just the ego really clamps down on any exposure of vulnerability. And of course, Brene talks about courage and vulnerability and how that just creates a totally different workplace and world place. And so vulnerability is really an amazing creative place to be. What keeps us out of vulnerability is that immediate defensiveness. And so we all have to practice unhooking from our ego, because if you're not out there, you're a basketball player practicing your free throw thousands of times.
It's like fundamental.
Yeah,
right?
When it's time to actually shoot the free throw for the big game, you're not ready. And so a lot of people don't realize that a lot of this stuff, they go, Sai, it's really hard to do this in the moment. Well, that's because you're not practicing it day after day after day. So one way to practice unhooking from your ego, of course, is meditation. But another one is to practice receiving feedback in a way that you work as hard at finding how it could be true as you do it finding how it isn't true. So I like to give people concrete assignments. Find 3 ways it could be true. And don't just do the cheesy stuff. It's true because I got a hole in the wall that I'm looking at. What I love that you did is you just used that as a metaphor, an analogy for clumsy feedback. Where else am I living clumsy? Because if you take the word that triggered you most and you want to get really comfortable with that word, you've got to be able to look throughout your life and just find so many examples of, it's clumsy to be curt or yell at somebody I love. It's clumsy to be, because the feedback that triggers us is such an invitation to go deeper with self-compassion and get more comfortable with who you really are, messiness and all. And that's why I say, life's messy, but you can live happy. You're messy and you can still live happy, but you can't live happy if you keep denying your messiness.
Yeah.
So I remember going through an exercise where I was first practicing this, and people would say, give me feedback, and I would just sit with it and find out how it could be true. And then it got to become a challenge. I'm like, okay, all feedback's true. And so my team was like, you know what, we can find some feedback that you have to deny. There's just no way and so it became kind of a game. And so I'd walk in and they tried easy ones. They're like, Sai, you're a liar. I'm like, well, yeah, I put makeup on before I came into work. I'm lying to you about what I really look like. I've lied to your face. I lied on my driver's license. That was too easy.
Yeah.
So one day I came in and they're like, Sai, we got one for you. I go, what is it? And they go, Sai, you're a murderer.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, dang. I mean, that's a hefty felony in this state. I'm like, ooh. And my initial reaction is like, oh, I mean, I don't think so. And then my cheesy reaction is, oh, I'm sure I've murdered people's character by, talking poorly about them. That's too easy.
But the mind's starting to open, right?
The mind's starting to open. And by the way, when your mind opens, your heart opens. You just live a better life. So I sat with that a while and I started to think, on a funny side, I'm thinking, gosh, dang, back in college, I acted really irresponsibly. I drank. One day I drank and blacked out for probably 4 hours. And I'm thinking there could be some unsolved murder. Who knows if I drove or... And then it really hit me in a big way with all of the learning I'm trying to do about my own biases and what the data really says out in the world. And, I had just listened to a podcast about the number of people who are in minorities on death row, and the disproportionate number of minorities on death row just doesn't make sense. And it just really reveals so much bias. And I started thinking, you know what? I've got a part in that. I voted for a governor who hinted that he might reinstate capital punishment.
Oh.
And I just kind of went forward anyway, even though I was a little uncomfortable with that. And lo and behold, within months after he became governor, he reinstated capital punishment. So now with how, and this is just my political affiliation, right? So don't anybody take any offense out there, but how I am a murderer by being careless with my vote and being a bystander, as we have so much bias determining the life and death of people in our community. So as I'm kind of waking up a bit to that, I'm like, it's even more true. So I think the more we wake up, the more feedback, all feedback is true. Now, this is kind of mind-blowing for some people because they're like, all feedback.
I got a situation for you. Yeah.
But when people come to me and I give them an assignment for self-reflection, a lot of times they'll come back to me, they'll have all the reasons it isn't true, but my assignment was find how it is true. And so I encourage them, let's work as hard at finding how it is true as you did finding how it isn't true, because that's where you give birth to mental flexibility. And actually, so then the ego's not playing you.